بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الأمين وعلى آله وأصحابه الطيبين الطاهرين رب يسر ولا تعسر سبحانك يا عظيم اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. Inshallah ta'ala, we're going to continue with our kitab and book by Sheikh Sa'di, which is called Al-Wasa'il al-Mufida lil-Hayat al-Sa'ida, the useful ways of leading a happy life. We already had one session last Friday. Today is our second session with this kitab, and inshallah ta'ala we're going to end this kitab. And so we're going to move on to the chapter 2, and it's فصل ومن أسباب دفع القلق الناشئ عن تواتر الأعصاب. So if we just go back and review of what we have studied last Friday, so that the brothers and sisters who didn't attend last Friday can have some refresh, and of course also for those who attended last time also. The book deals with mostly talking about the ways on how to have and achieve a happiness life, and stop from your life and defend from yourself the anxiety, depression, and grief and worries in both, like dealing in both. How do you have and achieve and gain a happy life, and happy and beautiful, stable, comfortable life, and at the same time how to help yourself fighting and overcoming the ways to fight and defend yourself from all the psychological disorders. This is usually what the kitab is about and the book is about. And this is what, as we already mentioned, and the author himself mentioned, that every single person, individual human being, is chasing that. The main goal of every human being is that. So no matter what ways they took and the step they took and the routes they took, every individual is looking for that. And we discussed that, and it's continuing the same way. So among the other means of taking off and saving yourself from anxieties arising out of nervousness and preoccupation of the heart with some sorrowful things. How do you do that? The other ways to achieve all that it means is by occupying yourself with one activity or another, or with some useful knowledge. الاشتغال بالعمل من الأعمال أو علم من العلوم النافعة. Getting yourself busy with some work. Either you're working, either you're doing something, you're busy with something, busy with your family, busy on your work. You have to maintain yourself or preoccupy yourself by making yourself busy. This is one of the other ways that you can fight anxiety and all this nervousness and all that. Otherwise, if you're not doing anything, you're not involved in anything at any activities, that's the moment when the anxiety comes. Actually, not doing anything itself is anxiety. When you're not doing yourself, you're not busy with self, you're not hanging out or something, nothing even, you're not doing anything, anxiety comes. So you have to maintain yourself, you have to keep yourself busy and involved with some activities. Useful activities are very important. Like من العلوم النافعة, seeking knowledge, acquiring knowledge. If you're having a layoff from your job, if you took off from your job, maintain yourself. Again, make yourself busy with seeking and acquiring knowledge. Learn the Quran, go learn the ahadith of the Messenger ﷺ and all other Islamic studies. But do not become boresome. Don't be like not doing any job at all, or not doing no work at all. It doesn't make any sense. وربما نسي بسبب ذلك الأسباب التي أوجبت له الهم والغم. And this is because doing that or like doing any activities will distract the heart away from being immersed in anxiety. Also, it might even make him or her forget the things that caused him grief and worry. Yeah, because when you're not doing anything, you will remember what you used to do. This is what you did, this is what your job was in the past things. But when you're busy with something, you're not going to have a chance to remember all that. So not only you'll be having anxiety, but also you'll remember the incidents, the events that triggers you with anxiety. So fight anyway, burdensome. Do something, whatever it is. فَفَرِحَتْ نَفْسَهُ وَزَادَتْ نَشَاطَهُ. So when you engage yourself in some activities, you will not remember also what happened in the past. So you will be happy, you will achieve happiness like that. وَزَادَتْ نَشَاطَهُ, and become cheerful. وهذا السبب أيضا مشترك بين المؤمن وغيره. And the author and the Sheikh says that this is also something that is common between both the believer and the non-believer. It's not even something limited to the believer. But the believer is somehow different. And we also mentioned also last time. ولكن المؤمن يمتاز بإيمانه وإخلاصه واحتسابه في اشتغال بذلك العلم الذي يتعلم أو يعلمه. But the believer is different because when he occupies himself with the knowledge that he is seeking or giving out, is either one way or other. Either you're seeking knowledge, you're the student, you're the talib al-ilm, or you're giving the ilm, you're delivering the ilm, you're teaching some other people. So, or with the good action he is doing, whether it is be an act of worship or a worldly act, a dunya act, in which he has a good intention of doing it to seek strengthen in worshipping Allah, and what he does, that he does it of his belief in Allah, is in any way it is a beneficial for that believer. That believer will get reward and ajr, unlike the non-believer. Because the non-believer, if he does other activities, and he is not gonna get in any reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the believer, if he has the intention, also doing some of the mubah things. If you do, for example, you're doing a gym and you have the intention to strengthen yourself for the ibadah, you're doing that for the strengthening your ibadah, then you'll get a reward for that. In fact, in some hadith also, it's been narrated from the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if you have the intention when you're eating food, the intention to increase strength and ability for the ibadah because of this food, you will get the reward and ajr. And it's also something mubah. But if you don't have any intention, you're just not going to get any reward for that. But if you have the intention to make yourself strong, to make the ibadah, Allah will give you reward for that, even if it's mubah. So always make the intention of everything. Even by sitting now in the masjid, you have to have the intention of i'tikaf. You will get the reward of that also. So inshallah, make the intention, yeah. ومما يدفع به الهم والقلق اجتماع الفكر كله على الاهتمام بالعمل اليوم الحاضر وقطعه عن الاهتمام في الوقت المستقبل وعن الحزن على الوقت الماضي. Another beneficial way to achieve happiness and fight all the psychological disorders is to concentrate on one's attention and concern with the affairs of the present. Concentrate on the present tense, the present time that you are now. Do not worry about the future, because you haven't reached that yet. And do not also think about whatever you have done in the past, because that's not going to repeat itself. What happened had happened, and you cannot do anything about that. You have to surrender yourself to the present. ولهذا استعاذ النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من الهم والحزن. That's why the Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم has seek refuge from anxiety and grief, both. And the Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم said, اللهم نعوذ بك من الهم والحزن والعجز والكسل والجبن والبخل. In that hadith, it's also one of the du'as that we do in the morning and the evening. Actually, it's a very good, it's a recommending to do that every morning, and once in the morning and once in the evening. It's one of the du'as that we say as a sabah wal masa, the adhkars of sabah wal masa. He used to say, Allahumma na'udhu bika min al-hammi wal-huzn. Oh Allah, I seek refuge from anxiety and grief. What is anxiety? Anxiety is something that is about to happen to you. It's for the future coming. You're worried about something, you're scared about something that has not even happened yet. That is called anxiety, or ham in Arabic. And huzn, which is the grief, فالحزن على الأمور الماضية التي لا يمكنها ردها ولا استدراكها. And the grief, which is huzn, is usually over past events that you can neither bring back nor rectify it. Yeah, you cannot bring them back. And even if you bring them down, you cannot correct it. You cannot solve the mistakes that you did in the past. It's only the only thing that you can do is about learn a lesson from the past. But you shouldn't be, okay, this happened, why did I do this? Why did this happen? ما فات فات والمؤمل يرجى ولك هذه الساعة. And this is actually one of the other ways to, for the health of your mental. The mental health. If you want your mental to be stable, this is the solution. And in a hadith, the Messenger said, احرص على ما ينفعك واستعن بالله ولا تعجز وإذا أصابك شيء فلا تقل لو أني فعلت كذا كان كذا وكذا. The same thing that we just discussed, the Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم mentioned in a hadith that احرص على ما ينفعك. Strive and struggle for what will benefit you. واستعن بالله, and seek help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. ولا تعجز, and do not give up. Work, and hard work, especially hard working, is required over something that is beneficial for you. And also not only do that, not only focus on doing it, also rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wasta'in billah, because you need Allah's reliance. You have to rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so that you cannot do this alone, because you might give up at the end. وَلَا تَعْجِزْ. That's the Messenger saying وَلَا تَعْجِزْ at the end. Because what happens, some people, they get involved themselves in some activities. What happened? The second day, third day, and the fourth day, that person gives up, stops that activity, that's useful, beneficial activity. And when you stop that useful, beneficial activity, what happens? That's it. Anxiety comes then, That's the time when you feel boredom. So sometimes you have to think, if the work that you're doing is actually keeping you away from many things, many unpleasant things. You're actually helping yourself. وَإِذَا أَصَابَكَ شَيْءٌ فَلَا تَقُلْ لَوْ أَنِّي فَعَلْتُ كَذَا كَانَ كَذَا وَكَذَا. And if something afflicts you, something unpleasant happens to you, do not say, if I had done such and such, would have happened, and such would have happened. But you have to surrender yourself to Allah's command and Allah's decree. ولكن قل قدر الله ما شاء وما فعل. قدر الله وما شاء فعل. That this is the decree of Allah. He does what He wills. This is because, So this is a very important thing. فجمع صلى الله عليه وسلم بين الأمر بالحرص على الأمور النافعة في كل حال والاستعانة بالله وعدم الانقياد للعجز. So in this hadith, the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم mentioned combine between two things. The first is to strive for useful things in all situations, and seek the help of Allah, and not to give up and not to surrender, and surrender ourselves to incapacity, because that is harmful. And so this is very important. Get yourself احرص على ما ينفعك. So it's a present thing. You have to work out yourself, getting yourself engaged in what is beneficial to you, something, and this is the present. And if something happens to you, do not say why this happened, and if I didn't do this, wouldn't have happened like that. So do not think about the past, and at the same time focus on the present. This is what the Messenger of Allah mentioned in this hadith, the boat. So we see that the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, is teaching us two categories of affairs. The first category is affairs that the slave has the ability to accomplish totally. And the other thing is the slave should exert his utmost and seek the help of. And this category shows that you're surrendering yourself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's command and qadr. But if you think about whatever in the past that happens, what will happen, not only you're causing yourself into anxiety and depression, but in fact you will be sinful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because you're not surrendering yourself to what happened to you. You're not surrendering yourself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because of what happened to you. So two negative things will happen to you. One is the psychological disorders will come. You're making an entrance for the anxiety to come, and you'll be sinful also, because you didn't surrender yourself to Allah's command and Allah's qadr. So this is very important. And the other means are وَمِنْ أَكْبَرِ الْأَسْبَابِ لِإِنْشِرَاحِ الصَّدْرِ وَطُمَانِينَتَهُ الْإِكْثَارُ مِنْ ذِكْرِ اللَّهِ. Among the greatest means to achieve the expansion of the heart and its tranquility and satisfaction is frequent and regular remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Constantly and frequently remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is one of the tools and weapons to fight anxiety and depression. If you don't have the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on a regular basis, you're actually gonna be in trouble. You're in big problem then. But by keeping yourself in a dhikr and remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're curing yourself. Is a remedy for the heart, remedy for your body, and your mental. You're mentally gonna be stable, and your heart will also be stable by doing the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that without doubt, in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find satisfaction and comfort, relaxation. One of the ways that your heart can be relaxed, comfortable, is by doing the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah alayhi rahmatullah, he has given a beautiful example that he said that the dhikr to the heart is like the fish to the water. What will happen if you take out the fish from the water? After a while, that fish is it going to be alive? No. The same is the human being. The believer is like that. If you restrain yourself from the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're gonna be like that, disconnected from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your health will be solidified. It will be like a rock. In fact, Allah mentioned in the Quran, some people have a heart worse and harsher than the rock. Even worse than the heart. It means the rock is even better than some of the hearts. وَإِنَّ مِنَ الْحِجَارَةِ لَمَا يَتَفَجَّرُ مِنْهُ الْأَنْهَارِ. Because some of the rocks, they release water and rivers. They come out of the rocks. You have seen that. But in this solid heart, nothing, no use at all. So dhikr is a very important thing. So this is because of the special effect that the remembrance of Allah has over the heart, and the fact that the slave, when remembering Allah, has the hope of receiving a good reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a mandatory. Always remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Remembering Allah, being yourself. Otherwise you will be disconnected from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You will be away. The more dhikr you do of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the more the calmer you are. The lesser the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you do, the more problem, discomfort comes, anxiety comes, grief comes. And this is actually, it's not something that is also done by many people, and they have seen this. It's mujarrab. Among these things also is proclaiming and mentioning the favors and blessings of Allah on oneself. The other ways to achieve happiness, useful ways of achieving happiness and stopping yourself from anxiety and depression, is by mentioning the favors and blessings of Allah upon you. The blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah bestowed upon you, that Allah has showered upon you, the different blessings and ni'am, you always have to keep that in your mind and express the thank and gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Never be like you're just getting everything, the favor that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then you're not even realizing them. You have to feel them from your heart. Thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the heart and from the tongue and also from your organs. This is the 3 types of shukr that Ibn Qayyim alayhi rahmatullah has divided into. You have to feel them from the inside first. Then it comes to your tongue. You're going to say Alhamdulillah. But you cannot say Alhamdulillah if you don't feel it from within yourself. So you have to remember and talk about وَأَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ. Talk about the favors that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you, the different kinds of ni'mah given you. Do not just go crazy with the situation, the bad situation that just now happened to you. Because what happens, a lot of people when they get sick, they forget all the favors that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them. And they get themselves busy with this situation. In fact, some of them, they ignore and deny and reject all those ni'mas that Allah has given them in the past. Just because of the anxiety that just happened, that occurred them now. And this is actually the kufr, ni'mah. Yeah. Because how many favors Allah, ni'mah has given you. There's only one problem that you're facing now makes you ignore all those favors. That's going to be unbelievable then. ومن أنفع الأشياء في هذا الموضع استعمال ما أرشد إليه النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وكلما طال تأمل العبد بنعم الله الظاهرة والباطنة. So because remembering what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and realizing the ni'am and the different favors that Allah has given you, رأى ربه قد أعطاه خيرا كثيرا. The slave will realize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given him a lot of khairs, a lot of good things, a lot of ni'ams. وَدَفَعَ عَنْهُ شُرُورٌ مُتَعَدِّدًا. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has saved you from other worse situation than this. وَلَا شَكَّ أَنَّ هَذَا يَدْفَعُ الْهُمُومَ وَالْغُمُومَ. And there is no doubt that this thinking only about the favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will save you from anxiety, depression and grief. And will also replace you with happiness and cheerfulness. ومن الأسباب الموجبة للسرور وزوال الهم والغم السعي في إزالة الأسباب الجالبة للهموم. Among the necessary causes of happiness and stopping of grief and worry is striving to remove the things that bring about grief. Yeah, you have to think about the solution, how to get rid of the anxiety. How should I get rid of this? How to fight this anxiety that happened to me? Because in any way you have to know that. In any way, no matter what you live in this world, you will be afflicted by some sort of anxiety and depression. First you have to know this. Even this is actually another relief by itself. Because it's another problem also. If you don't know even this, if you don't know that you will be afflicted or affected by an anxiety and depression and worry, no matter how much that is, knowing that itself is actually makes you ease when dealing with this anxiety. Because if you don't even know that, or if you don't believe in this at all, then that's what makes you worse your situation. Instead of solving it, the solution, forget about it. You cannot even make it lighter. You cannot even deal with it. That's why a lot of non-believers, when an anxiety comes to them, what happens? They go crazy, they go mad. Or suicide, no matter what. This is what happens. Because they expect this life to be positive, always goodness. And this is not happening. A Muslim believes that hardships will come, calamities will come, unpleasant circumstances will arrive, and events will come. But then at the same time, at the end, inna ma'al usri yusra. This is what the believer believes. At the end, the solution, positive solution will come. A recovery will come. Things will be better than this. And having this anxiety and calamity is actually, by being patient with it, I will get a reward from that, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what a believer believes. So you have to know always that. But then, knowing also, and at the same time, you have to fight it. Islam actually teaches us way to overcome grief, worry, and anxiety. In several ahadith, the Messenger ﷺ taught us. But the problem here is most of the Muslims, they lack that. Because of the qillatul ilm, because of lacking of knowledge, they don't know the certain ways how to overcome the grief and anxiety. And one of them is the dhikr that I have mentioned. One of the solutions is the dhikr. So the other way is that, we already mentioned this also, بنسيان ما مضى عليه من المكاره ومعرفته أن اشتغال فكره فيه من باب العبث والمحال. So he should know that nobody knows what will happen in the future, whether good or evil, or pleasure or pain. This is in the hands of Allah alone. So the slave has no control over it. This is another thing to know. The only job is for you that is assigned for you is to struggle to accomplish what will benefit you in the future. And whenever you turn yourself whenever you just ignore yourself and turn your mind away from worrying over the future and relies on Allah for its betterment, and is satisfied that his Lord will do that for him, and he does all that, his heart will be comfortable and his conditions will be good, and his worries and anxieties will vanish. They will just disappear. And among the other ways is, as I mentioned, the dhikr. The other way will be, among the most beneficial things to do concerning the future of one's affair, is to be saying the du'as and the prayers that the Messenger Muhammad ﷺ used to say and used to recite always. Because one is the dhikr, and the other way is to make dua. And one of those dua is Allahumma aslih li dini alladhi huwa ismatu amri wa aslih li dunyaya allati fiha ma'ashi wa aslih li akhirati allati ilayha ma'adi waj'al al-hayata زيادة لي في كل خير والموت راحة لي من كل شر. Oh Allah, make my religion, which is my strength, good for me, and make my dunya, my world, where I live, good for me, and make my hereafter, which is the akhirah, which is my final destination, good for me, and make my living an increase for me in all that is good, and make my death a repose for me from every evil. So these are the different kinds of dua that the Messenger ﷺ used to recite. You will find most of them in the book of the Ahadith. The other one is لا إله إلا الله العظيم الحليم لا إله إلا الله رب العرش العظيم لا إله إلا الله رب السماوات ورب الأرض ورب العرش الكريم. يهديكم الله يصلح بالكم. So this is also another dua. Allah Allah Rabbi la ushriku bihi shay'an. The other dua is, any affliction, problem happens to you, right? Say Allah Allah Rabbi la ushriku bihi shay'an. You got any incident, or make some of the ayats, read some of the Qurans also, it also works. But under one condition, it depends on how much you believe this will work out. The yaqeen should be there. That is important thing here. And I can assure you this happens. Many things I have tried, all these things, and Allah made it easier for me. This is my personal experience. I have lost things. I used to do salat and I used to find them. Because this is exactly what the Messenger used to do, and make it as a dua and salat. This should be your weapons. Anything happen, you lost anything, some problem happen, pray 2 rak'ah salat. كان إذا حزبه أمر أفزع إلى الصلاة بادر إلى الصلاة. Anything happens to him, anything afflicted by him, calamities happen, he used to rush towards the salah immediately. So this is actually the sunnahs of the Messenger ﷺ on how to deal with anxiety and depressions and calamities. Do not overthink. Don't do like 911s and all that. Direct contact Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with dua and dhikr and salat, and Allah will make it easier for you, undoubtedly, because Allah knows that you're actually reaching Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with help. You're asking help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The police has stopped you, I don't know, with some problem, that's a wrong mistake that you have made. A traffic police came, do the dua before even he approaches. And Allah will make it easier for you. He will not even look towards you. He might walk somewhere else. And also this happens. But if you don't do that, then you will nothing. So all the believers, the Muslims, they should have this habit. And if the problem happens, you should already know who to contact. And Allah will answer. ومن أعظم العلاجات لأمراض القلب بل وأيضا لأمراض البدنية قوة القلب وعدم انزعاجه وانفعال للأوهام والخيالات. Among the greatest cures to nervous and mental disorders and even other illness of the body. Not only that, and I want to repeat this also, I have also already mentioned in the first session that the mental illnesses are worse than the illnesses that happens to the other parts of your body, the physical illnesses. Mental illnesses versus the physical illnesses. I believe, as a psychology student, I believe that the mental illnesses is worse. Because you know what happened, I have already discussed, the example is easy. If someone is being afflicted with cancer, so he's been diagnosed with cancer, what happens? He has his mind, his brain. He can do dhikr, he can do more ibadahs and salat, and diabetes and all that, all the other physical illnesses. But what happens when someone loses his mind? Can that person do dhikr? Can that person do salawat and ibadat? No. He will always be dependent on someone else or be in asylum. Khalas, nothing. Every problem happens, he cannot deal with it. So that's why I say mental illnesses are worse. That's why you have to, by looking at the solutions, the physical versus the mental, you have to put the weight and struggle and effort on how to deal to get the solutions for the mental illnesses. Have to focus more on the mental illnesses. That's why it's very important to fight anxiety and depression. Otherwise, because anyways, for the cancer, maybe you will be treated. Yeah, you either will be treated, either Allah will give you shifa, if you ask Allah give you shifa. But if you lose your mind, how much is the guarantee that the person will get his mind? No guarantee, right? If someone loses mind, most of them, they get lost like that. You will never see someone who's been lost of mind, that you see they came back to normal. Except for a few. Mostly it doesn't happen like that. That's why these psychological disorders, the anxiety, depression, schizophrenia, there are a lot of them basically. There are a lot of psychological, pathological disorders. So how to deal with these to get rid of them in the first place? Because they're going to lead you to maniac and being mad and losing your mind, or you're going to be like a crazy person. They will lead you at the end. So that's why I say the mental illnesses are worse. That's why the Shaykh is also not only addressing the mental illnesses but also the physical illnesses. So he said among the greatest cures to nervous and mental disorders as well as the illnesses of the body is the firmness of the heart and its strength and lack of its being troubled by illusions, khayalat, and imaginations brought about by evil thoughts. This is also very important. لأن الإنسان متى استسلم للخيالات وانفعل قلبه للمؤثرات من الخوف من الأمراض وغيرها أوقعه ذلك في الهموم والغموم والأمراض القلبية والبدنية. Once you have these illusions and imaginations, whenever a person lets imagination gets the better of him and allows his heart to be troubled in mind by negative effects like fear of illness or anger and confusion over some painful situation. Confusion is also another psychological disorders. When someone gets being confused, overwhelmed, is actually another تشوش من الأسباب المؤلمة. Over some painful situation or anxiety over something bad happening or over the expected loss of cherished things. Whenever he lets that happen, it will surely throw him into the den of grief, sorrow, and physical and mental illnesses, and a nervous breakdown. So these are very important. Never allow the illusions and the khayalats and the imaginations get into your heart. Avoid as much as you can. أوقعوا ذلك في الهموم والغموم. So this takes you, these imaginations and illusions leads you to where? في الهموم والغموم, into all the psychological disorders. ومتى اعتمد القلب على الله وتوكل عليه ولم يستسلم للأوهام اندفعت عنه بذلك الهموم والغموم. Shaykh Sa'di says in here that whenever a person relies and depends on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and does not surrender his heart to illusions and does not let evil imaginations get the better of him. But because what happened, the evil imaginations, like someone did something to you and the evil imagination comes, oh, what if I do something bad to this person? Yeah, this is what happens. So you will get worried in any way, anxiety. This is how the believer happens. So don't let these imaginations take over you. Just take them and say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, as the Messenger ﷺ showed us, and spit towards the left and right, whichever you can, and trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because these evil imaginations is led by shaitan. Shaitan works on this. That's why it came in a hadith that shaitan asks you, who created you? And you say, Allah. Who created the heavens? You say, Allah. Who created the earth? Allah. At the end he will say, who created Allah? Then if he takes you to that point, on that certain level, say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. That's why Allah says in the Quran, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا إِذَا مَسَّهُمْ طَائِفٌ مِّنَ الشَّيْطَانِ تَذَكَّرُوا فَإِذَا هُمْ مُبْصِرُونَ. That's what happens. So, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, read Surah Al-Ikhlas, and all this will go away. These evil imaginations and illusions will go away from you. But if you don't do anything, you let them, they overtake you, that's it. You become a slave of your own illusions and these evil imaginations. And you can never go away from them. So these are very important also. So trusting in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a solution. And many physical and mental illnesses will leave him. And his heart will experience such joy and tranquility that are beyond expression. فالمتوكل على الله قوي القلب لا تؤثر فيه الأوهام ولا تزعجه الحوادث لعلم أن ذلك من ضعف النفس. So a person who puts his trust in Allah has a strong heart that is not affected by illusions nor troubled in mind by events and occurrences, because he knows that this is from a weak heart and is an act of weakness and fear that has no reality. So we're trying to conclude as much as I can. That's why if you're following from the kitab, so I'm doing the summarization of the main points. I'm highlighting the main points from the book. I'm not going through every details and all that. So whoever is following from the book, he or she should know that. I'm doing for every chapter I'm doing the summarization. So the other chapter, it says that العاقل يعلم أن حياته الصحيحة حياة السعادة والطمأنينة. The intelligent person knows that his real life is the life he lives in happiness and tranquility. And that is a very short indeed. So, of course, this is also another way that can help you in achieving happiness and getting rid of anxiety and depression, is by knowing that this life is not the permanent life. You're not going to live forever in here. فلا ينبغي له أن يقصرها بالهم والاسترسال مع الأكدار. Yeah, this is true. So you don't deserve to surrender yourself with anxieties and depression. Because once if you believe that you're going to go away from this world, why sorrow, why grief and anxiety? You're a believer. You know that this world, even if the anxiety comes, what is it going to do with you? It's going to go and going to come back again and go. But are you going to stay forever in this anxiety and depression, coming and going? No. There's one day that you will go away from this world. That is a headache, and you're ending up going to Akhirah, and in Jannah, where there is no such thing called as anxiety and depression there. A life full of happiness, permanent happiness, and comfortable and relaxation. But for this world, do not expect 100% happiness. That's why Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal said, whenever you put your two legs inside the Jannah, expect happiness then. But before that, this is not a life of having or expecting happiness even in the first place. Even if you get some of them by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but it's not constant. If you get happiness, how long you will be? You don't even know that. So this is also another. فإن ذلك ضد الحياة الصحيحة. فيشع بحياتي أن يذهب كثيرا منها نهبا للهموم والأكدار. وينبغي أيضا إذا أصابه مكروه أو خاف منه أن يقارن بين بقية النعم الحاصلة. ومن الأمور النافعة أن تعرف أن أذية الناس لك وخصوصا في الأقوال السيئة لا تضر. The other important point he's mentioning here is, among the most useful ways to drive away grief is to train yourself not to desire thanks and gratitude from others. Among the useful things to remember is to know that what people do to you, do to hurt you, especially slander and other evil talk, will not hurt you. Rather, it is them that it hurts. Do not give up yourself. Whatever bad things the others say about you, do not give up yourself to them. Think as if they're talking about someone else, not about you. Because if you give yourself, surrender yourself to what they're saying about me this, they said this is what happened, this is exactly, you're already in the anxiety. You already give up the anxiety and depression. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَقَدْ نَعْلَمُ أَنَّكَ يَضِيقُ صَدْرُكَ بِمَا يَقُولُونَ. That we know that, indeed we know that your heart becomes tightened of what they are saying to you, of what they are saying about you in a negative way. Allah said, we know that. It means the heart becomes tightened of what the trolls, the negative comments that others say about you. Of course your heart will be tightened. But then there is a way to get away from that. Allah mentioned also that. فَسَبِّحْ بِحَمْدِ رَبِّكَ وَكُمْ مِنَ السَّاجِدِينَ وَاعْبُدْ رَبَّكَ حَتَّى يَأْتِيَكَ الْيَقِينَ. Just فَسَبِّحْ بِحَمْدِ, say Subhanallah wa bihamdi. That's all. And become وَكُمْ مِنَ السَّاجِدِينَ أي من المصلين, and be amongst those who pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those who prostrate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Always show up in the masjid. Coming in the masjid is also one of the main ways of dealing with such issues, fighting anxiety and depression and achieving happiness. But if you don't come to the salat, you don't become amongst ma'as sajideen, among those who prostrate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it means your heart will not only tighten, but you'll be the slave of anxiety and depression. So these are the solutions Allah mentioning. Say Subhanallah wa bihamdi and salat. وَاعْبُدْ رَبَّكَ حَتَّى يَأْتِيَكَ الْيَقِينَ. And be in worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala until your death arrives. So this is what it is. So never give up. The only way it will hurt you, whatever the people saying about you, is when you occupy yourself with grieving over it and allow it to get the better of your feelings. When you do that, it will hurt you as it did hurt them. Yes. Because it's actually hurting them. There's something bothering them, right? That's why they're saying something about you. So then it means you and them will be the same. No difference between you and them then. But if you pay no attention to it, it will not hurt you in any way. This is true. وَاعْلَمْ أَنَّ حَيَاتَكَ تَابِعٌ لِأَفْكَارِكَ. And the other important thing he's mentioning here is, know also that your life is dependent to your thoughts. فإن كانت أفكارك فيما يعود عليك نفعه في دين أو دنيا فحياتك طيبة سعيدة. If you engage your thoughts in what is useful to you, in your religion and in your worldly life, then your life will be good and happy. Otherwise, the opposite will be the case. So always you are what of you think of about yourself. If you think about yourself that you're Allah's slave, you're doing good, your situations are good, you will be, if this problem has afflicted you, you will have a solution. Allah will save you, you will be whatever you are. Then these positive things will also shape your life. This is what it means. Your thoughts shapes your life. You are what of what you think. You are what of your thoughts are. If you have negative things, then your life will also shape like that. اجعل الأمور النافعة نصب عينيك واعمل على تحقيقها. Make the attainment of useful things your goal and strive to realize them and pay no attention to harmful things. بذلك ولا تلتفت إلى الأمور الضارة لتلهوا بذلك عن الأسباب الجالبة للهم والحزن واستعن بالراحة وإجماع النفس على الأعمال المهمة. So you have to, this will occupy you away from the things that bring about grief and sorrow. ومن الأمور النافعة حسم الأعمال في الحال والتفرغ في المستقبل لأن الأعمال إذا لم تحسم اجتمع عليك بقية الأعمال السابقة. وينبغي أن تتخير من الأعمال النافعة الأهم فالأهم. So among the useful things to do is on the spot accomplishment of your activities, so that the future may be free for you. So this is because if you do not finish your present task and activities at once, others will come and pile themselves up on you. This is also the other thing. And they will join forces to oppress you. And as a result, anxiety will come. When the old tasks you haven't accomplished yet, what happens? The other comes. Then you will burden. Then you'll be anxiety, you will go crazy then. And what shall you do? This is what also happens. وينبغي أن تتخير من الأعمال النافعة. And the other things he mentioned here is that you have to choose from the activities the most important things. How much important they are, the most important activities. Then do the lesser important activities, like that. وميز بين ما تميل نفسك. Yeah, you should rank them in order of priority and importance. Find out the one which you have a stronger urge to do and which your self desires more. Yeah, this is also very important. Do not do everything at once. Do how important they are, the most priority ones and importance, and the one that you like them, you have interest and enjoyment at. فإن ضده يحدث السامة والملل والكدر. Yeah, because its opposite will bring about boredom, weariness and irritation. Because if you start doing by the thing that you have least interest at, what will happen? Even the thing that you have the most interest, you will lose the interest at all also at the end. Because you started with the least interest one. And then you're not going to maintain it then. Anything at all. واستعن على ذلك بالفكر الصحيح والمشاورة. And it is, والمشاورة فما ندم من استشار. Seek help in good thinking and good consultation. Yes. Whatever you're doing or you want to do, try to discuss it with someone that you trust the most. This is also another important thing, so that you do not regret at the end. A lot of things what happen, that the people, they do their own decisions, and then what happened without any consultation, with someone or discussing it with someone. How do you think? Should I do this? Should I travel? Should I get married to this specific person? Yes. What happens if you don't do and you end up marrying, and if you end up doing that thing, then you start regretting. Because what happened? You didn't do any consultation with someone. And on top of that, there are two ways actually when dealing with this. Whenever you're doing something, if you want to travel, or doing a job somewhere in a company, or you want to get married, you have to either do istikhara. This is actually the first step, which is your actually consultation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Put this matter in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do not just jump, do not do it. First of all, step back and put this situation, whatever you want to do it, in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there is a salat, specific salat for that, and there is a dua and supplication, saying after the salat. Always put in share everything with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Discuss everything with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then you will have a solution and a final decision. And on the other hand the second step is to have a consultation with someone, a believer, a person, a Muslim mu'min, that you believe that you can trust this thing with him or her. Then he will lead you to this, will tell you something. Because it says that ما ندم من استشار فما ندم من استشار. Because there's a saying, it is said that the one who seeks good counsel never regrets. And this is true. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran also about this. It's actually something religious. It's not about even something, it's just religious thing. فَإِذَا عَزَمْتَ فَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ وَشَاوِرْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ. Before that, وَشَاوِرْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ. Take consultation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is commanding the Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to have a consultation with his companions and sahabas. وَشَاوِرْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ. Have a discussion with them. Have a mashura with them. At the end, what happened? فَإِذَا عَزَمْتَ فَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ. When you have a decision, final decision you will have, of course. When you discuss something, consultate with someone, you will go into an agreement, right? Then trust with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do not just do conclusion and do right away. فَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ. Or trust on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah, and Allah will make it easier for you, undoubtedly. But what happened if you don't do all these steps? No istikhara, no consultation with someone. You did the thing, you end up in miserable life. Your life turns to be chaos and problem, and many problems comes to you. And most of the time this happens. So study what you intend to do carefully and thoroughly. When you are certain of the good that is in it and resolve to do it, then rely on Allah. And know that Allah loves those who rely on Him. Yes. وَمَن يَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ. This is true. Whoever has trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whoever relies on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ أَيْ كَافِيَهُ. Allah is enough for you. You don't need anyone else. You don't need to rely on anyone else. But it means if you do not trust on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you do not rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so Allah is not enough for you then. Because this is what it actually shows. It's like as if you are ignoring Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's my life. It's like that, I just want to do this way. Yeah, it's your life, and then you go, actually this life that you're claiming Allah given you in the first place. What life are you talking about? The life that you're saying in the first place, Allah has provided to you. قُلْ إِنَّ صَلَاتِي وَنُسُكِي وَمَحْيَايَ وَمَمَاتِي لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. That all your life, your death, your whole life is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You actually came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah have created you from nothing. Nobody knowed you. So He has given you this life. Give this life and rely this life with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is فَإِنَّكَ تَقْدِرُ وَلَا أَقْدِرُ وَتَعْلَمُ وَلَا أَعْلَمُ وَأَنْتَ عَلَّامُ الْغُيُوبِ. تمت هذه الرسالة والحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. So the kitab ends here, the book finishes here, with of course the summary, of course the most important parts. Majority of the parts, I would say, the kitab we have covered. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us beneficial for us, inshallah ta'ala. So these type of books, that talks about the boosting of the spirituality, the spiritually boosting your iman, which is in Arabic we call it ilm al-suluk, or ilm al-tasawwuf, is a very important aspect of life that many people are lacking. In fact, many scholars are also lacking these. When they engage themselves with some fields, what happened? Their hearts become so much like dry. So sometimes they need something that raqa'iq, which we call, that makes your heart, boosts your heart, and your spirituality is very important. So we're going to continue, of course, with a series of these type of books. And it is a very helpful book, as you can see, these type of topic-related books, which is very important. And then we're going to deal with the Imam Al-Ghazali alayhi rahmatullah book. He is expert and professional when it comes to the spiritual, because he's actually has a doctorate in PhD in spiritual. So we will see his other book, Ayyuha al-Waladi, and Abu Hamid al-Ghazali alayhi rahmatullah. Yes, yeah, Abu Hamid al-Ghazali. 500, he's the Hijri of 500. Oh, okay, yeah. Yes, he has a PhD on his time. Yeah, yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, of course, there's Abu Hamid the Misri. I know him very well. But then Abu Hamid al-Ghazali will go like that. And then, of course, Ibn Qayyim also. He's also expert when it comes to this. Well, in fact, Ghazali has many books regarding this. The biggest main book is Ihya Ulumuddin, which is very important. But he has other very short kitabs and books, which is Ayyuha al-Waladi, and we have Bidayatul Hidayah, and yeah, so much very good books. So we're gonna deal with that in Ibn Qayyim books also, inshallah ta'ala. May Allah make it easier for us. And inshallah ta'ala, if you have any questions, concerns, or anything, like last time. Yes? Yes? Yeah. Yes. Yeah, yes. Yes. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Can you stop the recording? Stop the recording. Amran is Surah Al-Ahzab. Surah Al-Ahzab. Yeah. If you memorize that, otherwise you can read in the first rak'ah Qul Al-Kafirun, in the second rak'ah Surah Al-Ikhlas. Or, as I said, in the first rak'ah Surah Al-Ahzab, وَمَا كَانَ لِمُؤْمِنٍ وَلَا مُؤْمِنَةٍ إِذَا قَضَى اللَّهُ وَرَسُولُهُ أَمْرًا. No, it's one ayah. It's just one ayah, yeah. I'll tell you, okay, I can show you that. And then in Surah Al-Qasas also, وَمَا يَشَاءُ وَيَخْتَارُ. رَبُّكَ يَعْلَمُ مَا تُكِنُّ وَمَا يَعْلَمُ. Surah Al-Qasas, these two verses, was actually related to the topic. That's why, but after Fatiha you will read them. Otherwise, it's okay, you read the first rak'ah Qul Al-Kafirun or Surah Al-Ikhlas. And when you finish the salat, so the majority is going to say, then you will raise your hand and start making the dua. And the dua is everywhere, you can find it online. اللهم إني أستخيرك بعلمك وأستغفرك بقدرتك وأسألك من فضلك العظيم إنك تقدر ولا أقدر وتعلم ولا أعلم وأنت علام الغيوب. And the dua goes, اللهم إن كنت تعلم أن هذا. So whatever you're making istikhara for, you'll mention it there. أن هذا الأمر، هذا الزواج، هذا السفر. You have to mention it whatever you're talking about. خير لي. If it's good for me, it's خير for me in it. فاقدره لي ويسر لي. Allah, make it for me. And make it easier for me. ثم بارك لي فيه. And Allah bless it also. وإن كنت تعلم أن هذا الأمر شرا لي. If you know this is not good for me, evil for me. في دين ومعاش for your religious and your worldly life. فاصرفه عني يا Allah. Take this back away from me. Help me away from this. Take me away from it. وصرفني عنه. Take me away and take this thing away from me. So this is very important dua, yeah. You have to always recite. Salat is always like that. Show the dua is very important dua. We're actually asked the khair. استخيرك بمعنى الطلب خير من الله. استخارة is your goods. And we're actually asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what is right for me? This or this marriage or not marrying this person or not marrying this person. It's like this. Because you don't know, or Allah knows. So you show me. This is what you're actually dealing with. And this is what happens, people are having, with unsuccessful marriages. It's because they didn't do many istikharas. That's what happens. Even if they are together or they're separated, it's just, there's something like, that person didn't make any precautions, which is the istikhara and the dua. Especially with someone. That's why then it becomes.
process. So 60 and not 68.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله اللهم رب هذه النعمة التامة والصلاة القائمة محمد الوسيلة الفضيلة وحسن مقام محمد الذي وعده إنك لا تخلف الميعاد